Hello there, I'm Diego and today I'm going to be presenting about Comet actors in Lyft. I'm going to be covering version 2.5 of the framework. Just briefly, who am I? I'm a Lyft committer. I work full-time using Lyft and Scala, and I also use Lyft and Scala on my side projects, so I'm pretty much all the time using Lyft and Scala. I love sharing what I know, and so whenever I learn something new, I try to either blog about it or send an email to the mailing list. Like one way or another, I try to share what I know. But let's get back to the topic. Today I'll be covering Comet in Lyft. So where can we use Comet? Comet is useful in many areas nowadays. Let's say that you want to implement a new social media website, let's say the next Facebook. You can implement the timeline or the wall, as it used to be called, using Comet. Where the idea is that your users, they go to the main page, and then when their friends update their statuses or they post new pictures or videos, those events you want them to right away on their walls, without them having to refresh the page or query your on purpose or manually your server. So this is one place where Comet is a really good fit for that kind of use case. Another way of thinking of when you want to evaluate if Comet is a good fit is if normally your users need to do a full page reload to get new data or even to check if there's new data on the server. Comet is a good place, a good tool to use. You can think of something like the Gmail interface, how you just leave your Gmail tab open, and then if you get new emails, they just show up on the UI. You don't have to go ahead and keep clicking refresh or refresh the whole page just to see if there are new emails. Because that's, who wants to do that? So that's another place where you can use Comet. And I guess to summarize, I would say that if there are events in your application that should be populated or shared with other individuals, then that would be a good way of looking at it, where you can start using Comet. And finally, up here, I see Comet as a complement to Ajax, and what I mean by that is that the way I see it is with Ajax, you as the user click on a link or press a button, send some request to a server, and then when the server is done processing your request, it sends you back the result. In between, while the server is processing your data or your request, you can still do other things on the page. The page doesn't just block. With Comet, I see on the a complement, because the events don't necessarily have to be started by the same user. They can be started by somebody else. Like I said, your friends on Facebook added their status, that status shows on your page. If you're on eBay, for example, somebody's you're looking at an item and somebody places a bid on the same item, you want to see the latest price right away. So that's again more ideas of where Comet would be a good use. And then you might want to ask okay, so how, what do the Comet actors do? How do they get their stuff done, their work done? It's actually very simple. They send JavaScript. So the idea is this request from your client to the Lyft server, and it's kind of waiting for events. Whenever your Comet actor gets a message, it wants to send the user new data, it sends it using JavaScript. And this is actually an example of JavaScript that you get from Lyft. If you see here, the first 3 lines, you don't have to worry about those. Those are just automatically generated by Lyft, the same as the last 3 lines. The line in the middle, the bold line, that's what you actually write on your Lyft application. In this case, you can see it's a jQuery. It's a simple command. It's a jQuery command just to go ahead and look for an element with the ID of price, and then it will set the HTML of that element to 129 and 43 cents. This is, simulating an example of a website like eBay, where somebody placed a bid and increased the price of an item. So you see there how it's just like very simple, and you have complete freedom on what kind of JavaScript you want to send there. You want to send through your Comet actors. Then the other side is then on the Scala code, like how do you send that JavaScript that is going to make it to the browser? Well, one way is by overwriting this partial function called low priority. So in this case, you can see how we have like two different messages that this Comet actor is kind of listening for. It's like it knows how to react. The first one is a case class, new price, that has just one value, the new price. And then you see to the right side, use function called partial update. And then partial update takes one parameter, which is a JS command, which basically is a JavaScript DSL from Lyft. But so you can use the DSL, or you can just send there plain JavaScript, and that will be exactly the same JavaScript that will make it to the browser. Now this is very powerful because you can do all your testing on your application on the browser just typing, like I do this all the time. Like I use Firebug, the plugin for Firefox, and from the console I just start typing my JavaScript I want to execute, and once I get it right, I know exactly that it's going to modify the page the way I expected. That's when I just copy and paste that JavaScript to my Scala code, to the Comet actor, and then I know that it's going to work the way I expected. And here, so we have, like in this example, this Comet actor waits for two messages. One is to update the price of an item, and the second message that I wait for is a case object, which is sold. So whenever this Comet actor gets a message, okay, this item was sold, it will send a different JavaScript to the browser, and will like update in a different way the UI. And you can have as many case statements there as you need on your application. Now, if you notice, so here it's called low priority, but we actually have two more options. We have low priority, medium priority, and high priority. The names are pretty clear what they do, I hope. So first, like in practice, I just use low priority. Like that's just what I do. Like on all my applications, I only overwrite low priority. But you might find yourself with a use case where your Comet actor might be quite busy handling different messages, and then all of a sudden you have one message that one event that if that happens, it needs to go kind of like to the top of the queue. So in Lyft, you can't really manipulate the queue. You don't have a way to say, okay, this message should go to the top of the list. But to simulate that or to solve the use case, we have medium priority and high priority. So the idea is that you just overwrite any of those two partial functions, and it will listen for specific messages. So then the Comet actor kind of runs in a loop where it first checks the high priority messages. If there's none there, it checks the medium priority messages, and then if it finds one, it will like execute that one. And then if they're empty, or once those are empty, then it goes to the low priority messages. So that gives you more flexibility on how to handle messages. Then, so I said before how if you want to update the UI, the browser, you can use partial update, the function partial update, which takes some JavaScript, and you can use that to update the UI. There's another way to update the UI, which is by calling re-render. Re-render takes one parameter. It's a Boolean value, true or false. First, let me just say that we really encourage you not to use re-render, and the reason for that is because calling re-render will most likely generate a huge amount of JavaScript that basically replaces the whole HTML that is covered within the Comet area. Like when you define a Comet, when you include Comet on your template, you deal with it the same as with snippets, where you open the tag for the Comet, you have some HTML, and then you close the tag. So then re-render will generate JavaScript to recreate all that HTML. So it'll be a lot of data going to the browser, and over time that will be pretty slow. So we really try like not to use that, but I mean you do have the option, like if for some reason you feel that you need to and there's no way around it, we give you the tools to do that. And the way to use re-render is the same way as a partial update. There you have an example. You overwrite low priority or medium priority or high priority, and then it listens for a message, and then to the right of the equal greater than, you call re-render, and it can be true or false. Now this, you might wonder like true or false does. When you define your Comet, you can also define an area that is fixed HTML that doesn't normally change. So then if you do re-render false, then that fixed HTML won't be updated. It's like the Comet won't touch that. But if for some reason like you really need to update everything, even the fixed HTML, that's when you can use true as the parameter, and then it will update even this fixed area. And speaking of the fixed area, this is how you define it. Inside your Comet class, you go ahead and override fixed render, and the type of fixed render is a box node sequence, which basically is like a box of HTML. And then so this HTML is going to be rendered right below the HTML from the render method. So you have the render method like all normal snippets from Lift, and then underneath will append this HTML. I asked on the mailing list a few weeks ago, and nobody, well, David replied saying how almost nobody uses that option. So it's there. It's not very flexible, but I mean you can use it. I think one use case that might be good for it will be if you had some JavaScript initialization. That's not the correct word, but you know, if you want to like run some JavaScript as soon as you load the page, but only on the first load, you might want to include in fixed render. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm pretty sure that's one way to use it. Then let's talk about more of how to work with Comet actors. So a Comet actor is a class. It's a class that you extend a Comet actor trait. There are a few other ways, there are a few other traits that you can extend to declare a Comet actor in Lift, but this is one way and like kind of like the default way to do it. Then something to remember is that you don't have to start or stop Comet actors in Lift. You declare them, and then you send them a message, and then Lift behind the scenes will go ahead and see if this Comet actor is already present in the JVM in the server. It will send the message, and if not, it will create it and it will send a message. So that makes it very easy to deal with. You don't have to start or stop, like check if it's running or if it is not running and all that. Like Lift will handle that for you, and it's amazingly how like it will handle it really well. Like I haven't run into any issues where I sent a message and Lift got confused and it didn't do the right thing. So that's really good. So I have been saying that, you know, sending a message to a Comet actor, this is something that, well, pretty much everyone who deals with actors says, but if you haven't worked with actors, especially with Comet actors in Lift, so this is how you can send a message to a Comet actor. So let's say I have a method called send message, and I can use this from a snippet. So what you do is, first we have this S, that capital S is a singleton in Lift that gives you access to a lot of information from the session and also from like the request that's coming in from the page, from the browser. So we go ahead and we open the session. The session is a box, and that's what we're using for each, kind of like to get inside the box. And then once we are inside the box and we're dealing with the actual session, then we call this method send Comet actor message, and it takes 3 parameters. The first one is the name of the class of your Comet actor. So in this case, this example is my Comet class. The second parameter is an optional value, which is the name of a Comet actor. So actors in Lift can have, so one is the class name, and then you can assign them a name to each Comet. I will talk in the next slide, I think. I'll be talking about it in details of like what you can do with the name of an actor. And then the last parameter on send Comet actor message is the message that you want to send to this actor. So in this case, we send a case class price with the value 125 and 43 cents. So something to remember is that with Comet actors, and actually with any kind of actor, at least that I know of, you always want to send them messages so they do their work. You don't want to call any method or function from the class. You don't want to like create the class and call a method from inside the class. That breaks the actor paradigm. You always want to, if you want to update information, or like if you want the Comet to do something, either to update an internal counter that it has, or to send some data to the browser, or anything, you always send them a message. That's the way that you deal and the way that you work with Comet actors. Then, so messages. So when you send a message, there are a few things to keep in mind. It's always good to have your messages, like the processing messages, take as little time as possible. You want the Comet actor, when it gets a message, then the process, like processing that message, needs to be fairly fast. So let's say that you have a Comet that needs to gets a message to process a video upload. So your user uploaded a video, and you need to do all this processing, check if it's the right format, and maybe reduce the size, or do all kinds of things. That will clearly take a long time. So then what you want to do there is kind of like schedule that task on a different thread, and then return, like have the Comet actor like ready to listen to new messages, and then to continue like working on pending messages. One way that Lyft, one of the tools that Lyft gives you for you to send a process to another thread is using schedule.schedule. You there basically pass a function that you want to execute, and then you can even like have it that like the task will be maybe sent to another actor, not just a Comet actor, but a regular Lyft actor. And then when the Lyft actor is done processing the video, it can send your Comet actor another message saying, okay, I'm done processing the video, this is the result, and then you can show that information to the user. So that's like one of the things to like keep in mind. Try to like make sure that your Comet actor isn't blocked for very long at all. And let's see, what else can I say? So one of the things that, so this will be like the way that I show you how to send a message was going into the session. What you might have not realized is that like that means that if you're a user and you're on a page, you can be on one page of this application and send a message to an actor still on your browser. But what happens if what you want to do is something like the Facebook example, where like you update your status and you want that status to show up on all friends' wall? So that would mean sending messages across different sessions. So the Lyft gives you at least 2 options, and you have a third option to write your own how to solve this situation. So one way is using the Comet listener trait and a few other traits that comes with it. This is what you normally see on the example from Lyft using a chat application. Usually you see the example using Comet listener. Something new that we added to Lyft 2.5 is this name Comet actor trait, and again a few like classes and objects to help with it. And then the third option will be you can write your own way, like your own registry, to see who's listening, who's watching which item on your application. Let's say if you're on eBay, for example, like you can like write your own logic to see like which Comet actors are rendering which item, and if they're both, if two or more are looking at the same item and one page changes on one, then you can like send a message to all the others. It takes, I mean, it's kind of like involved to write your own, so I will definitely encourage you to use either Comet Listener or the name Comet Actor trait. And if by any chance neither of those fit your needs, it would be great if you can actually send an email to the mailing list, so we can all discuss it and hopefully make the ones that we develop inside Live better and fit also your use case. So let's start with the first example. So life is simple. So you have just one user, one Comet actor. Let's say you're bidding on a Chromebook. You increase the bid, place a bid, increase the price. You get the new price right there because it's just you. That's, you don't even need Comet for that. Now, the challenge is when you have two users. So you have user 1 and user 2 both bidding on the same, and you want somehow those two Comet actors to talk to each other, so that they can like tell each other that the price changed and you need to show it. So this is where you can go ahead and have an object. So an object in Scala, like you only have one per JVM. So in this case, it will be Comet Manager. So you declare an object, you extend the Comet Manager trait. So that will be kind of like the centerpiece. Like you will know like all the Comet actors on your JVM, on your Java server, on your Lyft server. Then each Comet will extend the Comet Listener trait, and part of extending the Comet Listener trait, you will like tell Lyft to go ahead and to register with a specific Comet Manager. So then all your, like let's say we're in the eBay example, so all your Comets that are in charge of updating price will all register themselves with the Comet Manager. So the Comet Manager will have kind of like a vector of all these Comet actors, and then it will know if there's a price update on any update, on price change on any item, then this Comet Manager will send that message to all the Comet actors. Now, the problem with this is, let's say that user 1 is bidding on the Chromebook, but user 2 is bidding, is looking at a battery, like a totally unrelated item. If you just use this like plain Comet Manager and Comet Listener traits, then the Comet that is displaying the battery will also get the message from the, like saying that the Chromebook price was updated. Now on your low priority message, you need to handle this, and you need to see, okay, like if this isn't a price for the battery that this user is using, disregard the message. Now that could seem like a lot of like overhead, like you don't really want to do that, and that's actually why I implemented the other option of the name trait actor, because I didn't want each of my Comets to get messages that they don't care about. So then here we have a different option. So you have user 1 is looking at a Chromebook, then your Comet would extend the name Comet actor trait, and then you have an object that is the name Comet Listener. This name Comet Listener is kind of like that's like the main center area, the brain, let's say, of the JVM when it comes to Comet actors. But then what it will do is, as soon as it receives a message from a Comet actor saying, okay, this user is looking at a Chromebook, like, and I want to register with somebody, then the name Comet Listener will go ahead and either create or add, so in the first case, it will create a class, a dispatcher, which is actually a Lyft actor, and this Lyft actor will only know about the Comet actors that are looking at this specific Chromebook item. And again, this is just in the eBay example, like you get the freedom to decide how like one item or one page is different from another. So then this dispatcher, this name Comet dispatcher, will have a vector of Comet actors that are just like, they only care about this one Chromebook. So then this solves the problem of like having to disregard messages that you don't care. So the one that disregards the messages is actually the Comet Listener. So like you don't have to like send like all over the place all these messages. Once it gets to the Comet listener, it just tells you, okay, this is the dispatcher that knows about the Chromebooks. It will know that dispatcher will know what to do with the message. So here's an example. So we have user 1 updates the price of them by $2. Then the Comet will send this message to it will actually query the name Comet listener, and it will be, give me the dispatcher so I can send it this message. And then the dispatcher on step number 4 will go ahead and send the message to the 4 Comets that are looking at this Chromebook. And to be more specific, so this is what you will be calling from your Comet snippet. And actually you can call this also from a regular snippet, not just from Comet actors. You call, so there's a singleton, so you just call it directly, name Comet listener. There's this method called getDispatcher4, and then the parameters that you give it is how you name the actor. So in this case, let's say that the Chromebook was item number 2, so then you can just use that, the item number 2, as the key to tell that, okay, like if this Comet that's looking at item 2, it means that it's looking at the Chromebook. So in this case, the getDispatcher4 number 2 gives you a future, and inside the future there's a box, and inside the box there's a Comet, there's a leaf actor. So the reason why we gain a future is because we don't want to like block on this call. Like for any reason it takes a long time, like we just schedule it and like eventually the message is going to be sent. In reality it's going to be very fast, but you know, we just have it with a future. So in leaf, to like work with the result of a future, you use for each. That's why you had the first for each, and then because you get a box as the result of the future, that's what we call it the second for each, and then that exclamation mark new price, and if the new price is the new message that you want to send to all the Comet actors that are just looking at this item. And that is it's like the first part of the video. They're going to be, I think there's going to be at least one, maybe